This week on the Four Rivers Ag Report, is the glass half empty or half full? Maybe we should worry about the glass getting smaller. Also, because we want you to be around to enjoy those beautiful sunsets, we talk farm safety. And is Bessie a cyborg? All that and much more next on the Four Rivers Ag Report. Welcome to the Four Rivers Ag Report. I'm Fred Peralta. Well, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. Well, actually, I haven't seen a lot of fire lately, but we have seen some rain, and our soil is sure thankful for it. We certainly needed it. A couple of months ago, when I was talking to our crop guys, Bob Stan and I were visiting after we recorded our segment, and we were commiserating about the drought, and Bob said to me, "Fred, one of these days we'll be fighting wars over water." The comment faded away in my memory, but since then I've been reading more about water management, water rights, and the depressing trend that water is not getting to where we need it. Braden Harp reports on one such situation not too far away from us.
A natural resource that is often taken for granted, water is the most important natural resource for the environment, economics, and human survival. As the human population rises, the stress on the Earth's water resources continues to increase. Even with the majority of the Earth being covered by water, 99% of this water is undrinkable and unusable for agriculture. The 1% of water that is fresh water is starting to decrease due to poor water management in areas of the world and our changing climate. An area of the United States experiencing this problem is the American Southwest. The American Southwest includes the states of Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico, and has experienced a large population growth in recent years. Due to the desert and arid climate in the area, alongside an inaccessibility of water, the population in the American Southwest historically was not very large. In more recent times, with electricity and the ability to pump and channel water from the Colorado River with the Hoover Dam, the area has experienced large population growth. The Colorado River is a major waterway that is fed exclusively by snowmelt and mountain glaciers. With the recent warming trend of our planet, snowfall has significantly reduced, and the size of glaciers in the Colorado mountains has dwindled. This lack of a source of water for the Colorado River is causing some concern among scientists and water conservationists in the region. The Colorado River once drained into the Gulf of California. For a few decades, the river no longer has made its way to the Gulf of California because of a combination of a lack of precipitation to feed the river, increased channeling of the river, an increase in population, and the construction of dams. Currently, the Hoover Dam supplies water to over 8 million people in the surrounding area. The lake the dam creates, Lake Mead, is starting to experience severe strain from the rising populace in the region and droughts that have been brought upon by climate change. The local populace in the American Southwest requires running water in homes and public places for survival. On top of this strain, activities such as watering lawns, car washes, and small-time agriculture in the area put an even greater strain on the already faltering Lake Mead. In addition to the lake levels dwindling, the aquifer that was situated under the southwestern states was completely drained in the mid to late 80s due to overpumping of the water for industry, agriculture, and community purposes. Therefore, the only option left was the water from the Colorado River. The water management issues experienced at Lake Mead and the Hoover Dam are not an isolated problem. All across the United States and even the world are dealing with population growth and the increasing demand for water. The largest debate across the western United States is between the producers and the consumers. Producers, well known as farmers, need the precious resource to grow the food we eat. Their stance on the debate is easily understood. On the other side, consumers state that they need the highly demanded resource to keep the economy going. This is very true. Let's look at this issue in the simplest form. If the producers are unable to provide enough water for growing the food, there will be starving people and the economy will suffer.
Well, that report was from Braden Harp, and I thank him for doing that, and that led me to a lot of questions I'm going to ask Cameron Craig about the water. Now, that took place in the Southwest.
That's correct. The Southwest has an issue with water resources, and so that's what we're going to talk about today.
Right. So the Southwest, the three factors that really contributed to the problem in the Southwest with water was urbanization, increased amount of usage and lack of rain or snow, right?
Right, yes.
Okay. Are those factors that we have to worry about here?
No, well, the only factors that we have to worry about here is urbanization and the lack of precipitation.
Okay. Now, we had the drought this summer, and I'm almost tired of talking about the drought, but we've had some good rains after that. Aren't we okay?
Yeah, no, we're not okay. We're still about 7-8 inches behind where we should be, but the 7.5 inches that we've gotten in September alone have really helped us out. As of last week, we are now still in a moderate drought. And with this recent rain this week, we're going to see, that continue to diminish.
Okay. Now we're sitting on top of the world's largest aquifer. Maybe not the world's largest, but a pretty darn big aquifer.
That's right.
Muhammad Aquifer. Aren't we okay with that?
We are, but we have to be careful about how much we pump out. We have individual villages and cities that are pumping water every day out of that aquifer. Now, there are some locations that are pumping 1.2 million gallons a day and 1.5 million gallons a day. And we have to ask ourselves, where is that water being used? Well, it's being used for industry. It's being used on a personal level, too.
So, at that rate, how much longer will the aquifer be there for us, and can it replenish in time?
The replenishment is long term. I mean, we're talking thousands of years, and because it took thousands of years for that water to be put into the aquifer, this underground reservoir. As population increases, there's going to be a more demand, one, to have that water on hand for hygienic purposes and water usage on a personal level, but also for production of food.
Speaking of the production of food, with that 7 billion people plus, and us needing to get to the 200, 300 bushel per acre to feed that large of a group, the drought really knocked us back this year as far as our yields. Is this a trend that we need to worry about, the severity of different weather types?
I believe so. There's a lot of research that's saying that there is going to be a situation where the water resources, the distribution of precipitation has changed due to climate change.
Okay.
And what that means is that, we've always gotten rain here for decades. There have been some decades that we didn't get any rain. And so like the 30s, didn't get any rain through here. And then this summer also. But that redistribution is going to be a problem.
So we're seeing patterns shift?
Yes, patterns are shifting. Everything's becoming, the warming aspect is moving further north. And so is the jet stream. The general average position of the jet streams is moving northward. So that puts us in a situation like we were this summer, where we didn't get any precipitation because the jet stream was too far north.
Okay. So really, this is a problem that one individual can't change, but yet our actions can help. What should we as individuals and as communities think about when we're talking about water?
When we, as an individual, try to think of how can I reduce water on a daily basis. How long do you take a shower? The dishwasher, is it running daily or every other day? If we think of this as an individual and then it becomes collective, then we can conserve water even more.
Now we get to the tug of war between being good protectors and having an economy that can grow. Large hog farms require a lot of water. Large grain processing requires some water. Shipping requires water. This almost seems too big for an individual to handle. How can we begin to think that in ways that can matter?
I just think that we have to take this drought situation this summer, and we should be using that as the new norm. We should think, okay, I almost like Decatur. They had water restrictions. There were people out in the rural areas that were having to come into town to get water in these huge tanks in their vehicles. Are we going to resort to that? We have to be very careful about how we use water. Without water, you don't bring chicken, pork, or beef to the table. And like teaching my students, the food comes from a seed. It doesn't come from Walmart, but it comes from a seed, and without water, that seed doesn't grow, therefore you don't get all of those wonderful items on your plate.
So actually water resources is a major potential problem worldwide.
Yes, there are places in the world that are suffering as well. Just not the United States. The aquifers around the world are suffering because of the redistribution of precipitation.
Well, there's a lot to chew on that, and so hopefully
Yes,
we'll start chewing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
Now here with our Ag News is Monica Becker. Monica?
Thanks, Fred. I'm Monica Becker. The cool, dry weather has reminded us of fall. Another reminder, the bare cornfields. Harvest is well underway and we're a bit further along than the state. The USDA reports that statewide corn is 95% mature and 54% is in the bin, more than double the 5-year average of 23%. In the East-Southeast District, we are at 99% mature and more than 3/4 of our corn, 77%, is harvested. Soybeans statewide are rated at 90% yellow, 66% dropping leaves, and 8% harvested, which is ahead of last year, but about on par with the 5-year average. Soybeans are reported at 17% very poor, 25% poor, 37% fair, 19% good, and 2% is rated as excellent. Locally, we're more closer to the state average. 94% is yellowing, 70% dropping leaves, and only 5% of the bean crop is harvested. The soil moisture situation continues to improve. Topsoil is rated at 7% very short, 23% short, 69% adequate, and 1% surplus. Subsoil is 29% very short, 45% short, and 25% adequate. Now, Reuters is reporting that analysts predict the U.S. corn stocks for the end of the 2011-2012 season fell to the lowest level in 8 years. These analysts expect the USDA's quarterly stock reports on Friday to show corn stocks at 1.1 billion bushels, down 15 million bushels from a year ago. Soybeans are estimated to be down to 131 million bushels, the lowest level since 2003. But there is some good news for the farmers. On Tuesday, the USDA and the Illinois Department of Agriculture announced that a waiver from the federal prohibition against the blending aflatoxin-contaminated corn has been granted. Corn contaminated with aflatoxin above 20 parts per billion may be blended with other corn to the extent that the resulting product is below the appropriate aflatoxin action level. Blended corn must be clearly identified and labeled for animal feed use only. And corn containing aflatoxin levels greater than 500 parts per billion cannot be blended. The waiver will be effective through December 31st, 2012. Now, the drought hit us hard this summer, but some farmers are finding that different fields were better able to deal with the lack of surface moisture. USDA researchers are finding that farms where soil health management systems are followed were more drought tolerant. The USDA's National Resource Conservation Service is working with farmers to improve soil health and function to help crops survive severe weather such as this year's drought.
Runoff is a symptom of poor soil function. The more you can capture that water, the better it is, and that's what helps us get through the drought. So healthy soils will be more resilient against drought because they have more organic matter in them.
NRCS can provide assistance to farmers on how to use techniques such as no-till planting, crop rotation, and cover crops to help soils stay cooler, wetter, and biologically active.
The cover crops have really helped out this year, especially in this drought situation we're in here in northwestern Ohio. The cover crops allow us to open up the soil, and we're able to get roots down into moisture that's down deep and also down into the nutrients that's down in the soil.
We no-till And it's similar to what you do in your yard, in your flower bed or your trees. You would mulch that, and we keep the soil cooler and help retain moisture better throughout the season.
We've incorporated things like cover crops on quite a few of the acres, things to encourage the biology and the water infiltration and all those things. But it seems like the no-till with the cover crops and stuff really handles that stress better.
More information is available at our local NRCS office. That's it for this week. I'm Monica Becker.
Thank you, Monica. Now, September is National Farm Safety Month, but really every month should have being safe around the farm topmost on your mind. I visited with Robert Ahern the other day to find out more about how to keep yourself alive and safe this time of year. Dr. Ahern, what should we be thinking about this time of year in regards to farm safety?
Well, this is the time of year we have the most number of serious accidents and fatalities in the state of Illinois because it's being fall harvest. We're out operating our combines and harvesting equipment, plus doing fall tillage, plus moving a lot of our farm equipment, public roadways, and moving grain into storage. All these type of activities pose a number of serious accident risk with the machinery particularly being involved. And so this time of year we need to pay particular attention to what we're doing and how to do it as safely as we can with the least amount of risk.
Do different types of farming activities require us to think about safety in different ways?
Yes, it does, because one area is machinery. Our machines are operated by fairly large, powerful engines, and they are moving components, parts, 540 to up to 1,000 revolutions per minute. So it's very powerful, very aggressive moving parts. And if we don't respect that and we don't keep ourselves away from it and keep the areas that we can guarded, and we get caught in it, it's going to be relentless. It's going to pull us into the machine and can cause serious injury or death, or pull our arm or leg off or something of that nature. And so it's very important to do things such as make sure the machine's shut off before you do any kind of maintenance or adjustments or unclogging equipment. Even though in the past we might have done it and gotten by, the problem is that's a high-risk behavior. And just because we did it doesn't mean that we couldn't get involved in a serious accident, because accidents are multi-causal events, and you might be tired that day, you might slip and fall on frost or wet ground that you normally wouldn't be there. So a lot of those kind of things come into play that can result in a pretty serious accident, and we can't get away from it. So it's important to pay attention. Also, it's important to be very alert, and that requires us to make sure we're getting adequate rest. Many times we start pushing ourselves just way too much this time of year because we're kind of in this timeliness concept that we want to get done as fast as we can, but in reality we don't want to put ourselves at such risk that it could cause a serious injury or death that could affect us and our families for a lifetime. So we need at least 6 hours of rest. Usually about 7 is normal that we need for the average person. And if you don't get that, you're going to be physically tired, and when you become mentally tired, and that's when you make mental mistakes you don't normally do. Another thing related to rest is that it's very important to stop every 2.5, 3 hours and take a 10 or 15 minute break and get away from what you're doing and just rest and get your kind of recharge yourself a little bit.
That's tough to do this time of year when you're trying to get in harvest in between rainstorms and that sort of thing. A lot of people who don't normally work on the farm are helping out this time of year, hauling grain, that sort of stuff. What should we be thinking about telling people who don't normally operate equipment, what they should be thinking about?
Well, one, they need to make sure that they understand how to operate the equipment, and they are trained on how to basically operate it. Otherwise, you put yourself or whoever you're supervising in that situation at significant risk. So we want to make sure they're trained and they're old enough. A lot of times we get our young children out there, and yes, they can, a 9 or 10, 11, 12-year-old child can operate a tractor, but the problem they have is that if something goes wrong, and they can do some basic operations if they're trained, but if they have to do something, they have to react real quickly and use their hands, arms, legs at the same time to get the tractor, for example, under control if it starts to go off in a ditch. They don't have the ability to use simultaneous motor skills like that. We don't develop that as human beings very well until we're around 13 to 15 years of age. And so anybody younger than that's really at risk of doing any kind of operation where they could have a problem that they'd have to react to very quickly. So that's one thing. And also to make sure that they understand the safe work procedures. If you're, for example, you're having a person operate a piece of equipment on a public road, they've got to make sure that they have mirrors that they can see around them, that they're staying off to the right side of the road as much as possible. They can't use the other lane of traffic on a 2-lane road. they legally can in Illinois, but you're required to give warning to oncoming traffic. So that means escort vehicles, or you got to pull over if you see something coming, and if you sometimes you don't have room. But those are all responsibilities we have as operators of farm equipment, as well as it needs to be well lit. The extremities need to be lit. If you're moving at night, then flashing warning lights on, and a good slow-moving vehicle emblem that's visible at 1,000 feet.
Now, with the engineering help that we've gotten with design of farm equipment, with the emphasis on farm safety, are we seeing fewer farm accidents? Are we seeing different types of farm accidents?
Well, over time, I've been doing this work for over 30 years. I've seen the evolution of change, and one, we don't have as many people getting their hands and arms caught in the intake area of the combines, because one of the big things that help with that is reversing mechanisms that doesn't cause the equipment to get clogged up as much, and we're not in there trying to unclog a clog, and that's resulted in a lot of lost arms and hands in the past. We still have that occasionally, but not as much. And the equipment's, people don't get as fatigued quite as much because the machines have power steering and the controls up around us. We have good vibration in the seat, control in the seat, so it doesn't cause us to fatigue as much. But many times we just still push ourselves too much because we feel it's not hard to operate. And secondly, the other problem we have with our equipment, it's much larger than it used to be. So we have a growing number of accidents on public roadways where people were moving in down roads where we're using the other lane of traffic excessively, and that leads to some pretty serious accidents in our state and fatalities and injuries. So it's very important that we understand how to move our equipment safely on roads where we can, get it in as narrow configuration as possible. And if you've got a header in a combine, you're much better to put that on a trailer and move it rather than having it connected to the combine. All those kind of things dramatically decrease risk. And what we're trying to do is remove the risk, reduce the risk to a level that less chance that we'll suffer one of these serious injuries or accidents. I can't tell you, we don't want the injuries to happen, and no farmer or anybody does, but also if a serious injury occurs, particularly to an employee or to the driving public or something, these result in multi-million-dollar lawsuits. And, if a farmer is not doing what they really should be doing or is recommended they do, they can put themselves in a pretty serious liability situation.
So the best tool we can use to be safe is this, right?
Well, that's right. We only have one body, and we need to take care of it so we can be productive in our lives and enjoy the things we like to do with our family and our time, and being productive people in our farms and so forth, in our communities. We just need to be very alert and learning and thinking about how we manage this risk so we don't put ourselves and other people in significant risk situations that could be costly in many ways to us.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ahern.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
As if farmers haven't suffered enough already, many are finding that an already compromised yield might have been affected by our old friend, the rootworm beetle. Todd Gleason has more.
The combine seat, it's a satisfying perch. The corn rolls in, row after row, stalk after stalk. And from the cab, you can hear the groan of the machine as it strains under the weight of a good crop, or its sigh as it hits a failure in the field. That's when the farmer needs to look up.
Well, as farmers roll through their fields during this harvest, they're going to see, undoubtedly, in some areas of fields, lodged corn, maybe significant areas of lodged corn in some cases. That's usually an indicator that rootworms have been hard at work during that summer, feeding on root systems and compromising the integrity of that root system, setting the stage for plants to lodge more significantly.
There are other reasons for the corn to topple over, but this fall farmers in northeastern Iowa and northern and western Illinois might pay a bit more attention. One of the BT technologies used to control the rootworm, the first Yield Guard BT, is failing.
So that tells us that the rootworm population up in some areas of northwestern Illinois, north central Illinois, is evolving. It's adapting to this protein. So producers need to be made aware of that and make some intelligent choices when it comes to rootworm management for 2013.
The obvious choice is to rotate crops. It could mean sowing wheat this fall into corn stubble or planting soybeans next spring. The other option is to change BT technologies. The problem there is the increased selection pressure, which very well could cause the alternate BT to fail too. For University of Illinois Extension, I'm Todd Gleason.
And finally, a couple weeks ago, we reported on the robotic milking systems. What is it about the back end of a cow and computers? A British veterinarian has created the virtual cow. Professor Sarah Bailey of the University of Brighton School of Veterinary Sciences combined her veterinary knowledge with computer science to create the haptic cow. The haptic cow is a fiberglass model of the cow's rear end that allows students to carry out virtual examinations on the cow and will be used by veterinary schools around the world. The student reaches in to the black and white fiberglass shell and connects with specially designed robotic arms. The students are able to see a simplified representation of various structures, such as ovaries, and on a separate screen, with match with what they can feel in the simulator. Which raises the question, does virtual cow make virtual cow patties? Well, that's it for this week. Work hard, be safe, and enjoy those beautiful sunsets. I'm Fred Peralta, and thanks for watching the Four Rivers Ag Report.